Hello everyone, today I'll be reviewing Them. So Them came out in 1954 and is a science fiction monster movie. This was directed by Gordon Douglas. So this film starts off in New Mexico where a couple of policemen, they're searching through this desert and they find this little girl who is wandering around and who appears to have lost her parents. It appears that something has happened and there's this trailer that has been ripped apart. So we're wondering what on earth is going on here. So we bring some scientists in and we find out that when an atomic bomb was dropped on the area in 1945, it caused some ants in the area to mutate and essentially become these giant beasts that are wandering around. So then these giant ants potentially obviously pose a threat and they need to be exterminated. So we follow these people throughout the film trying to fight off these giant ants and trying to eradicate them before they potentially take over, well, not only the area but the whole planet. As it turns out that these queen ants, they lay lots of eggs and they can reproduce very quickly. So the main character in this film is played by James Whitmore and he's a sergeant, and he's really the character who we follow most of the time. We're with him at the start and we see him pretty much towards the end. And yeah, he's an actor I hadn't heard of before, and in fact actually most of the actors in this film I wasn't that familiar with. We do have an appearance from Edmund Gwenn as well, and funnily enough, only the other week I watched Miracle on 34th Street and Edmund Gwenn plays Santa Claus in that film, and in this film he plays a doctor and a scientist, and he really is an expert on biology, and it turns out that he knows a lot about these ants. So throughout the film he's often telling us about how these ants behave and what they might do. We also have his daughter as well, who's played by Joan Weldon, and she is also a doctor, and she's probably actually one of the smartest characters in the film. And then we also have James Arness, who plays an FBI agent who is trying to figure out what exactly is going on. And yeah, he's a character who's quite skeptical at first of what seems to be happening, but he later comes to realise that yes, these ants can be very dangerous indeed. Now, James Arness was one of those actors who I wasn't that familiar with, but he later did go on to star in a TV series called Gunsmoke, which became very popular. So in terms of what I thought of this film, when I went into watching this film, I knew that it was a science fiction monster movie about giant ants, and it's pretty much exactly what I expected. And I have to say, although obviously being from the 1950s, the special effects are obviously quite dated, and these giant ants, obviously if they were making this film now, they would probably look better. But in terms of the practical effects used with the ants, I was actually fairly impressed, and I think for its time this was probably cutting edge, state-of-the-art special effects, and you can definitely see it work in the context of the film, and you can believe it when you're watching it that these giant beasts are roaming around. And I have to say, in terms of the overall structure and how this film is set out, I think it's aged extremely well, and I'm pretty sure that if they were to remake this film, they would probably follow a similar story arc, and a lot of it could still work perfectly well today, particularly with the way the film is set up towards the start, and when we're finally introduced to the first giant ant on screen, it really does look excellent, and it really is just perfectly executed on screen, that constant build up towards these creatures. Because obviously if you look at the front cover behind me, you can see those ants sort of terrorizing the city. So from that we already know that there's going to be giant ants in the film, so it really is just a matter of when they're going to appear and how they're going to appear and what exactly they're going to do, which is going to threaten people. So aside from the actual giant ants, there are also some quite funny moments in this film. Although it's by no means a comedy film, I was quite surprised by how much I actually laughed in this film. There are quite a few funny bits, particularly with Edmund Gwenn's character playing this doctor. We get this scene where he's in a helicopter and he doesn't quite understand how to work the headphones. He keeps putting the earpiece to his mouth and vice versa, and he doesn't understand that they have to say over when they're finished speaking, and he gets a bit frustrated with that, which is quite a funny scene, to be honest, amid all the panic that is going on when they're searching for the ants. We also get a couple of scenes with this guy who is in this mental hospital, and he's whereas a bit drunk is sort of acting a bit crazy, and he spouts out some quite strange lines of dialogue which seem really random, and yeah, they're actually quite amusing in the scene in the film. So overall, I have to say that if you're a fan of science fiction films, particularly these old ones which were from this kind of era, particularly ones like Forbidden Planet, then this is definitely something that you will enjoy, and I'm pretty sure lots of the later science fiction films have been inspired by this. And during this time we had lots of other great science fiction films like The Day the Earth Stood Still and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which were very inspirational in terms of those later science fiction movies. And this film is one of those films which I think is exactly what it says on the tin. It was exactly what I expected. It was really good fun, really enjoyable, just really good old-fashioned fun, pretty harmless film. If I have to say anything particularly bad about the film, it probably would be that I did think that the ending perhaps seemed a little bit rushed. It sort of reached a point where it just ended suddenly, and I suppose it's just because with more modern movies they tend to build on that ending a bit more and perhaps flesh out their characters a bit more. But then again, this is not supposed to be a serious film. It's a silly science fiction movie about giant ants. So if you're looking for really complex character development, then okay, perhaps this isn't the film. But still, I think in terms of the acting, I think the performances are actually about as good as you can expect for this kind of film from this era. And in terms of being a science fiction film with great special effects for the time, yes, I think it does an excellent job. So I'm going to give them a rating of 9 out of 10. As I said, if you like science fiction monster movies, then yeah, this is one of the best ones that you can go for. So there we go. So that is my review of Them. So what do you guys think? Have you seen Them? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Please let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section below. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.